in many of the question papers I have seen, they are asking what are the salient features of Motor Vehicle Act. All right. Now, when they are asking what are the salient features of Motor Vehicle Act, you can frame anything as a feature. Okay, it's not like, okay, fine, this is a feature, this is not. Whatever is there, right? You can accordingly prepare your answer that this is also a feature, that is also a feature. So we'll start with Motor Vehicles Act. Now, for obviously there is going to be 1 or 2 questions from Motor Vehicles Act, right? So you can study this particular part, like an introduction you can write. All right, whatever question comes, does not matter, you write this as an introduction, properly give heading, write this. That what is Motor Vehicles Act? It is a comprehensive legislation that mainly has this idea of enhancing road safety and everything. It provides it also serves for the purpose of a welfare legislation by providing for compensation in case of loss of life, limb, etc. because of accident of motor vehicle. So obviously it's a welfare legislation. Why? Because it is looking at welfare of the people. If there is a victim who suffers because of a road traffic accident, it's Motor Vehicle Act that would come for his rescue, right? So this can be an introductory part for any question that is coming. Okay, now these were the questions that were asked. Salient features of Motor Vehicle Act, strict liability or no fault liability in Motor Vehicles Act, application for compensation under Motor Vehicles Act, claim tribunal, and those stuff only basically. All right. So we will see now. You know, right? There is a legislation called Motor Vehicle Act. Yeah, what will be the features in your idea? Like you basically have an idea, right? These things are there in Motor Vehicles Act. So what will be the features of Motor Vehicle Act as per you?
Like people who can drive, who are old enough to drive, like 18, that one, that will be a law. And then motor vehicles, depending on the capacity of the engine, what kind of license you need.
Yes.
I think that one will come. And then regarding registration, from one state to one state, if something is going, then you have to pay that one. Then what?
So, okay, fine. You know that there is like a minimum age limit that you need to cross in order to obtain a driving license. Okay, that's a general thing that you know. But now question is mention the features of Motor Vehicle Act. So how will you frame that thing as a feature? You can mention that in order to ensure safety, all right, road safety, Motor Vehicle Act has set up a minimum age criteria that we need to cross in order to obtain a license. While obtaining also there are 2 provisions. One is learner's license and another one is one.
Yeah.
Why learner's license is given? So that when a person is learning driving, that time also he would have some valid documents, he would be liable and all that stuff you can explain. Then you can see it's not like today you obtain the license, it will be valid forever. You need to renew that also from time to time. Right now, what happens? Some digital license is coming, right? Some this thing will have there. What is that?
Smart card and
smart card. Yeah, right. So there, like electronically, all the records will be there with the transport officer and all that stuff. Those also you can write, right? Like age limit you mentioned in one point, then another one you can mention that they have improvised whatever license we used to have, right? Now they are keeping all the records and everything digitally. Like you cannot have 2 licenses. What if you apply for another one? It becomes very easy to track because it's stored there digitally. Every single detail is stored. Those things also you can explain, right? Why these things are done in order to ensure road safety. Whatever you know from that particular legislation, you can frame that as a feature. All right. So it's when they ask a question, what are the features? Like I told you, right? There is something called as motor MACT, right? Motor Accident Claim Tribunal. Also, you mentioned that for that we have this kind of thing. So basically, you can frame. So there are some features that we will discuss, and these features, apart from these features, also anything that you know from Motor Vehicles Act, you can frame a feature out of that. Okay. So So first, obviously, it will be applicable to a certain jurisdiction. So that becomes a feature, that Motor Vehicles Act was applicable to the whole of India, but except the state of Jammu and Kashmir. But now that same thing that we read for specific relief act contract applies here also, right? So you can again mention it was not applicable. Now it's applicable entire India, Jammu and Kashmir also under Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act of 2019. That becomes one feature. Second one is that it's an exhaustive legislation, right? It's not like for road safety or motor vehicles, we need to refer to multiple provisions here and there, these many legislations. It's one comprehensive legislation where all the provisions are been given, right? If we want to know anything regarding applying driving license, applying registration certificate, applying permit, we can just go through that Motor Vehicles Act and we will come to know about it. Right, so it's an exhaustive legislation providing for all the details like driver's license, conductors, registration of motor vehicle, control of motor vehicle through permit, special provision relating to state transport undertaking, traffic regulation, this, that, insurance, liability, offenses, penalty, etc. Every single thing is there in one single legislation only. So it also becomes a feature. Next is effective provision to ensure traffic safety. In order to ensure traffic safety, what all things are there? That it provides that no owner shall drive unless it is registered, right? You need your registration. After that only you can drive. If you are buying a car, you have not got that registration plate number plate you have not got, you will paste one A4 size paper, you will take a printout of the registration thing and you will put that. Why? Because it's a mandatory thing that is there. Then a certificate of registration is needed. Then it will be valid only for a certain period. You need to renew it. Suspension of registration, this, that, cancellation. Accordingly, just whatsoever things you know, frame a feature out of that. Mandatory third-party insurance. Now, when a person is driving or riding, the person do not know what may be the amount of loss that a person may face in case an accident takes place, right? That is the reason why we have the concept of third-party insurance. What is third-party insurance?
Hello. Yeah. Third party means if some accident happens and we have to pay the other person. If it's our fault and we have to pay the other person, in that case, it's for the third party insurance.
Yeah, third party as in it is someone other than me, right? So if there will be one person, me, another one will be an insurer, and another one whom is the victim in that particular accident. So we do not know. I may not be financially that much capable to pay that much amount of compensation, right? So that is the reason why third party insurance is mandatory. It's not an optional thing, right? You may not have your own insurance, but it's mandatory to have a third party insurance. Why? Because we never know what may be the amount of loss that is suffered by the victim in a certain road accident case. So that you can mention. Then setting up of a separate tribunal. So for road traffic accident, we have a separate tribunal called Motor Accident Claim Tribunal, MACT. What is that tribunal? What is the tribunal basically?
A court, basically.
Yeah, same like court only, right? They will have same powers and functions like a court. So Motor Accident Claim Tribunal has same powers and functions like a civil court. Okay, so in like states, different states, there will be motor accident claim tribunals. If there is a tribunal set up in your state, all right, you cannot go to civil court and file a case. Okay, you don't have the option of approaching any other court. Why? Because a special tribunal is already been set up, so you need to approach that tribunal only. When we have a separate tribunal, it also ensures that we are saving a lot of time, because regular courts are already overburdened. So if you are going there, it will take 3-4 years easily. Rather than that, we are going to the claim tribunal where the matter will be settled quickly. And also they are only dealing with road accidents, right? So they are specialized in that matter. So that also becomes very essential. So that also is a feature that it sets up a separate tribunal, and that is given powers and functions same like a civil court, Wherever there is a MACT established in a state, people do not have the option to approach regular civil courts. They will have to go to MACT only. No fault liability principle. So in certain cases, we need intention, right? If you are not having intention to commit a wrong, it may not be considered as a wrong, right? If by mistake you took my phone, because maybe yours and mine phone were looking similar, by mistake you took my phone, that will not be considered as theft. Why? Because you were not having guilty intention. But in case of traffic accident, if we start looking at intention of parties, whether the party actually was having intention to commit that accident, whether he was having guilty mind, whether he was having fault or not, entire legislation will become meaningless, right? So even if the person is not having any fault or anything, he will become liable. So that is no fault liability principle is also there. That also becomes a feature. Penalty for violation of rules and procedure. Now, because it's an exhaustive legislation providing for every single thing, it also provides certain rules and procedures that we need to follow. In case we violate those, this legislation itself also provides for penalty, right? It provides for different types of fines, like penalty for traveling without a ticket up to 500 rupees, penalty for causing obstruction in traffic flow up to 50 rupees. Right? So there are these provisions also mentioned. Effective regulation to fast increasing number of commercial and private vehicles. So, okay, fine. This legislation came into existence in 1988, but after that, a lot of things has changed, right? So, in order to include all of those changes in the legislation, it's been amended from time to time. Like in 2015, it inserted definition for e-cart or e-rickshaw. All right, that will carry either goods or passengers. Those were also included under the purview of this legislation. Why? Because e-rickshaws are gaining much popularity in the recent days, right? So that also becomes a feature of the legislation. Concern for road safety standard, pollution control measures, standard for transportation of hazardous or explosive materials. So if Transport Authority is issuing a permit for carrying of goods to a vehicle, we will look at what kind of goods they are transporting, what will be the risk involved in transportation of those goods and all those stuff also, right? So that also becomes a feature of it. Stricter procedure relating to grant of driving license and period of validity. You cannot just obtain a driving license. You need to appear for the test. And in order to ensure if you are actually appearing for the test or not, you cannot just send a passport photo to the RTO office. We'll take a photo there only, right? So that makes it a stricter provision that they have to ensure there is no that driving license is properly issued only, right? And limits of speed. That's with regard to certain class or type of vehicle, speed limit may be mentioned. With regard to weight and how much weight a certain vehicle can carry, with regard to that also there can be limitations or procedures that we need to follow. With regard to driving by drunken person or by person under the influence of drugs, also there are procedures. The person will be held criminally liable. Duty of driver in case of accident or an injury of a person, the person will have certain statutory duties or obligations. Then Motor Vehicle Act will categorize various types of vehicles and also provides for definition of all of those vehicles that we have, right? So that there is no confusion and a person is not coming and saying that I have this special type of vehicle which is not coming under the definition. So if you look at the legislation, right, there are a lot many definitions of different classes or groups of vehicles basically. So anything that you know from the legislation, you can frame a feature out of that. Okay, it's not like you need to remember the entire list or something. Whatever you know from Motor Vehicle Act, make it a feature. Is this part clear?
Yeah.
All right, so maybe you can just go through this. That okay, fine. Scope becomes thing. Exhaustive legislation, effective procedure regarding road safety, like that. You can just go through and whatsoever you remember. And don't be concerned with number of pages, because you can anyways explain on any of these things, right? If you are writing ki, okay, fine, this is applicable in entire India, you can easily explain 2-3 lines there also. So that is the first important thing that we have from this legislation.